In the worst timing ever, Blake Lively decided to launch a lawsuit against her It Ends With Us co-star for workplace hostility and sexual harassment. This happened on December 21st, so we are obviously way behind in just reporting on it. I'm sure that some of you have already read into some of the details, but she claims that he was engaging in some really wild and intrusive and disgusting perverted behavior on set. She is standing by those claims. However, he has hit back with his own receipts and denied all of this. It's just wild to watch the court of public opinion switch up this fast in real time. And it's being called the new Johnny Depp Amber Heard of, I guess, 2025 at this point. So here were some of the details of her lawsuit. She says that he engaged in, I guess this was part of the sexual harassment claims. He would tell her about his pornography addiction and tell her about his sexual conquests. He would make mentions of cast and crew's genitalia. He would inquire about Blake Lively's weight, and he would show nude videos and images of women to Blake Lively.
It all comes across very caricaturish.
Yeah.
Okay, my first instinct when I saw all this, especially when like his talent agency drops him and he gets awards revoked, was that it all felt very coordinated and
I mean, this doesn't sound outlandish.
Not to ever defend a male feminist, which I will never do, and he is absolutely the epitome of male feminism, given that he has like a podcast about deconstructing what it means to be male and masculinity, and he's given TED Talks about redefining masculinity. All of that is suspect as it is and always seems very try-hard to me. The industry push against him immediately seemed very, very coordinated.
Yeah, that should raise alarm for sure. The fact that it was so coordinated, it seemed. But that was my first instinct as well. Like, if we're going to talk about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni PR battle, I think we need to lay some ground rules first. How about this? We're not going to take the side of the Hollywood mean girl, Blake Lively, and we're also not going to take the side of the odious male feminist director either, because they're both probably repugnant people. And they're both probably less than being completely honest about this situation, what really went down. So why should we trust either party?
I mean, that's the take I usually have on all of these. Like, whenever we get into these Me Too type cases, that's not exactly what this is like, I don't know, I wasn't there. We can report on what's been said in the public eye, but at the end of the day, I don't know.
But this isn't a new thing, though.
No.
The lawsuit is new, but the drama and disputes between them were already rumored in the summer, back when this movie came out. And interestingly, it seemed to be a passion project for Justin Baldoni to direct this movie, because he's just such an ally to women, and he really cares about making a movie that advocates against domestic violence. Mm. The controversy there was about the marketing of the film.
Correct.
People were claiming that Blake Lively was trivializing the meaning of it by making it all about the florals and my hair care products that I'm selling.
She was right, because the movie ended up being extremely successful.
Right, so she ended up winning out. There was no reason for her to come and take a torch and light it all on fire by launching this lawsuit. She never needed to do that. People already forgot about hating her. It was already old news. Nobody was talking about it anymore. But she just resurrected it and made herself look pretty bad, actually. So she gave him a list of demands to stop doing all of these inappropriate things with her during production. And he claims that he has no memory of having any list of demands whatsoever. Here was another part of her lawsuit. They say on the day of shooting the scene in which Lively's character gives birth, Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath, one of the producers, suddenly pressured her to simulate full nudity despite no mention of nudity for this scene in the script, her contract, or previous discussions. Justin Baldoni insisted to Blake Lively that women give birth naked and that his wife ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in hospital gowns while giving birth.
To be fair,
Lively,
the worst trope in all of television is when you're watching a network TV show and they go to a strip club and the strippers are all wearing clothes. So unrealistic.
It depends on the state, though. Some of it is illegal. Just because I'm free said, I'm all for Hollywood infighting and lawfare. Isn't Lively married to Deadpool? That's dangerous considering how Deadpool is. They are a Hollywood power couple.
What's scarier is not Deadpool, but Ryan Reynolds and the amount of power he wields within Hollywood. I mean, he's a billionaire.
They both do together for their own ends. Yeah. So Blake Lively disagreed, but she felt forced to in a compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down in this scene. And when it was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, and lacking in standard industry protections for filming nude scenes. Choreographing the scene with an intimacy coordinator, having a signed nudity writer, or simply turning off the monitors so the scene was not broadcast to all the crew on set. But Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through while Miss Lively was mostly nude with her legs spread in stirrups, and only a small piece of fabric was covering her genitalia. Among the non-essential persons present that day was Wayfarer co-chairman Mr. Sarowitz, who flew in for one of his few visits.
I'll never get over the fact that that's the name of the production company.
She was not provided with anything to cover herself between takes until she had made multiple requests. She became alarmed when Justin Baldoni introduced his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN, when ordinarily a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. She felt the selection of Mr. Baldoni's friend for this intimate role, in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia for the scene, was invasive and humiliating.
So is the idea here that he's like, hey, bro, you want to do this scene? Like, is that what she's implying here?
I guess she's implying that Justin Baldoni called up his male friend and was like, bro, you're going to get to see Blake Lively's vagina. Yeah. And I'm gonna pay you.
Imagine being that guy. He's like actually a good actor. He's like, come on, man. I like remember what I said in the last segment about how you gotta know people to get ahead in life? Networking.
Yeah. Another excerpt from the lawsuit says, on another day, Blake Lively wore a low-cut dress to facilitate breastfeeding, but had it covered up with a coat. When the jacket briefly popped open at one moment to reveal the dress, Mr. Baldoni commented about how much he liked her outfit, which flustered Blake Lively. Later that day, he pressured her while she was in pre-approved wardrobe to remove her coat in front of the crew and multiple background actors in a packed bar. He said he wanted to see her onesie under the coat because it was zipped low to reveal her lace bra. Consistent with past practice, he said, I think you look sexy, in a tone that made her feel ogled and exposed.
Again, so if this is true, and it could be true, like, how do we prove this? Like, how do I care if I can't know?
Supposedly, if there were other people present to witness that conversation or witness the scene being filmed that she was talking about.
I guess so much of it just seems like a caricature of like the lecherous person that it doesn't necessarily pass the smell test for me, especially given the stuff that's come out now about Blake Lively and the New York Times and the coordinated campaign. I don't necessarily give it 100%, it doesn't pass the smell test for me.
Aside from any of the hearsay, one of the biggest allegations that Blake Lively included in this lawsuit was that Justin Baldoni specifically hired a crisis PR team to launch a smear campaign against her in the media back when this film was being marketed in theaters. And then she included text conversations in an expose the New York Times published about this. What was found out after Justin Baldoni responded is that they edited all of those conversations over text to look more sinister than they actually were. So she alleged that Justin Baldoni hired a crisis PR expert named Melissa Nathan, who had also previously worked for Johnny Depp, by the way, in order to discredit her.
Which then, of course, Amber Heard then started trying to like use this case to like win her reputation back. That's never happening. You crapped in a dude's bed.
Melissa Nathan wrote, allegedly in a text, "You know we can bury anyone," after a publicist said that Justin Baldoni wanted Lively to feel like she can be buried. And this came from the New York Times excerpt of those text conversations. However, we'll show you later that that was edited and they hid certain parts of it.
Context clues and stuff in the actual text messages, which is not good.
Now, Melissa Nathan, the crisis PR expert they're referring to there, is separately suing Justin Baldoni as well for making it seem like they were in cahoots. She's like, I was never hired to smear campaign Blake Lively. So Justin Baldoni's lawyer responded saying this is shameful that Blake Lively and her reps would make such serious and categorically false accusations against Justin Baldoni, and yet another desperate attempt to fix her negative reputation, which was garnered from her own remarks and actions during the campaign for the film, interviews and press activities that were observed publicly in real time, which allowed for the internet to generate their own views and opinions. At the time, though, I really thought Justin Baldoni was the more annoying of the pair of them, and it's because he was so sanctimonious about being an activist, not just a filmmaker.
Depending on your personality, that will bother you more.
Yeah, that was my take after all of that concluded. And it still kind of is. I still think they're both annoying, but I kind of don't feel sorry for the male feminist.
No,
sorry.
My point would be that the male feminist is more annoying on paper, and she's probably really insufferable in person.
Interpersonally, yeah. Well, as a result of Blake Lively launching this lawsuit, it seemed like the entire internet and the entire industry swung to back her. Yeah. They all went behind her statements. So first of all, Justin Baldoni got dropped by his talent agency. Then they revoked an award from Justin Baldoni called the Voices of Solidarity Award.
I did like
honoring men who have advocated for women.
I mean, that was hilarious watching the people who he's trying to advocate for then dunk on him, saying, why does this award need to exist for anyone anyways, when they're just asking you to be a good person?
Yeah, but they don't like the nice guys like me, the nice male feminist guys. So Colleen Hoover also released a statement. If you weren't aware, Colleen Hoover is the author of the book that this movie was based on. And she said, you have nothing but been honest, kind, supportive, and patient since the day we met. Thank you for being exactly the human that you are. Never change, never wilt.
I mean, even that is too flowery of a statement for me to believe you.
But that's the point. It's flowery. Yeah. The whole point is florals. Florals. Where are your florals?
Thanks, I hate it.
Amber Heard also spoke publicly to support Blake Lively, saying social media is the absolute personification of the classic saying, a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth can get its boots on. I saw that firsthand and up close. It's as horrifying as it is destructive.
But what about when the truth hits you and then craps in your bed? Just a question for her.
I'm going to be awaiting her response.
Yes.
Yeah. So Amber Heard is like kind of jumping onto this bandwagon.
Oh, yeah, for herself.
Because she sees this pattern repeating. And still, Blake Lively is going to come out being the Amber Heard in this situation because people don't believe her anymore. But Sony also took her side publicly, threw him under the bus. Christina Ricci posted a message in support of Blake Lively as well. And Justin Baldoni at this point had no choice but to fire back with his own lawsuit, not against Blake Lively herself, although it may still be in the works. Now Justin Baldoni is suing the New York Times for their misreporting of private text conversations.
I did find this tweet interesting. Zach Peters says, interesting that Blake Lively filed her new lawsuit in New York, where anti-SLAPP is less strict and basically ensures that it won't be televised like Depp vs. Heard, whereas Justin Baldoni's lawsuit was filed in California, demanding a jury trial. Seems that he wants all of this to be aired publicly.
Right. They say this is a $250 million lawsuit filed by Justin Baldoni against the Times in Los Angeles Superior Court. He's among a group of 10 plaintiffs that also includes publicist Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, who are suing the newspaper for libel and false light invasion of privacy over the December 21st article titled "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine."
And that, like, really at the end of the day, that's what all of this comes down to me. The problem that I had with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and you've talked about this at length too, is that it became a proxy war for the genders. Mm-hmm. These people do not live your life. They do not live my life. They don't live any sort of normal life at all. What they experience is not akin to anything that we're going to go through. And most of what you're seeing here is the smoke and mirrors of millionaires with PR firms on retainer that are helping them craft a narrative that will help them get more work and stay in public favor because their livelihood requires them to be in public favor. The best thing you can do is, if you do care about this stuff, is keep it insulated and think of it as something that's interesting on its own. Do not draw larger conclusions to what's going on between men and women in the world or anything like that, like people did with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, or even in the professional world. Don't take this as like indicative of your traditional workplace culture. If we want to take something that's more akin to this story, which is less Me Too and more to do with, what's the other one? Not Mean Too?
That's what she's doing.
Yes.
I mean, Blake Lively isn't really Me Tooing him. She's mean tooing him and saying that he was just a big jerk on set, which is not surprising at all. Even if that is true, it's not something that he's criminally liable for. But he has responded so strongly to each and every last one of her points.
He absolutely has to.
In a way that really just lends credibility more to his side of the story.
I think
for instance, when she said
she was hoping he'd just lay down. Like
what did you... Yeah, like, of course he's going to have to defend himself. You just tried to destroy this man's career. But in regard to him asking about Blake Lively's weight, he clarified he was actually asking her weight to her personal trainer because he needed to pick her up in a scene in the movie and he has back problems.
Okay, that made me laugh.
Like, that's insane. She also reportedly pushed for her character in the movie to be sexy, her words. The nude video that she was referring to being shown to her by Justin Baldoni was in fact a video of his wife giving birth. Yeah. And he showed it to her because they were talking about the scene of her character giving birth in the movie.
It's also like Colonel Kurtz, who's friend of the show, been on the channel on this show many times, is covering this very, very heavily. This was also a really funny one. Like, Blake Lively pressured Sony into taking creative control from the director. Like, she just sounds more like, even worse, just like a nightmare to work with, right? Creative control freak, wants to control the project. Oddly enough, you kind of can't blame her because the movie ended up being very successful and her approach worked, but it clearly wasn't the director's vision of the film because he was taking it from the perspective of an activist. It had the slant of an activist behind it. And she's like, well, I know what's going to sell. Advertising florals, and what are you going to wear to the premiere? It's like Barbie with spousal abuse.
Yeah, it's like Barbie, but if Ken is throwing punches.
Throwing hands with Ken.
Domestic abuse Barbie. I mean, that's literally what she went with, and women loved it.
If he does have like minor back problems and he's doing it just as a low blow, it's the best low blow ever. He's like, look, I'm not saying you're fat.
Hey, look, she's postpartum. I don't know.
I got a slip disc. I don't know what her workout routine is, but...
Well, I mean, it's true that she has a track record of doing that, as does Ryan Reynolds, because Ryan Reynolds took a lot of creative control for Deadpool and Wolverine, and still it did well.
Yes.
And then I think I recall him kind kind of shutting out the director.
Tim from the first one. Tim, what was that director's name? It's not Tim Schmidt. What's the guy who did the first Deadpool got shut out of Deadpool 2. Yeah.
This is just something that they do. And she was bringing scripts unauthorized to Ryan Reynolds to write things and edit things, and she was micromanaging the entire process while Justin Baldoni was just grateful to be there because this is his breakout project with an A-lister.
Kidding
so
me?
he has to go along with it.
Tim Miller, thank you, Chad. I knew somebody was gonna come up with the name of it. Tim Miller, is he also the guy who did remember the video that I played you from Clownfish with the funny quote about where they're like the guy's talking about trauma? I think that was Tim Miller from talking about trauma from doing Terminator.
Oh, yeah.
But the point being that Justin Baldoni was he was a TV actor before that. He was Olivia Love, Jane the Virgin. He was one of the stars of Jane the Virgin. So it was a chance to break out into bigger roles for him. And he bought the script for this, so he clearly cared a lot about it. Again, I take no sides when it comes to Hollywood because they don't represent me. They don't represent you. And they're all just kind of awful anyways.
Well, I think that as this story unfolds, it's going to be interesting to watch people suddenly forget that they were supporting Blake Lively at the beginning. Like, they're just going to have... They're going to act like they were always impartial, and they're going to come to regret making public statements in support of Blake Lively as more information comes out, is my prediction. Because you can already see the court of public opinion swaying back toward Justin Baldoni once again. In fact, she was set to present at the Golden Globes over the weekend, and they had to cancel her appearance because it was too much of a gamble with the ratings after last year's
I mean, I don't
slump.
see how that... I feel like it would do numbers for them because people would tune in for... You guys see last night, Hulk Hogan was on the first episode of WWE Raw on Netflix, and he got booed out of the building because they were in California.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep.
It's cold.
Brutal. Yeah. And then people were also like looking too far into it. Like, look it, they brought Hugh Jackman to the premiere. Why was he there? I'm like, they bring celebrities. They're friends. They bring celebrities.
It's
to
good
these
for the
premieres.
movie.
It's all stupid, guys. It's all very stupid.
It is very stupid, but I'm still kind of
If you
interested.
want very, very in-depth coverage of this, I do recommend watching Colonel Kurtz's channel. She goes deep in depth on these stories, so you should check her out.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.